Recording in progress.
Good.
And James.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. We good? Hey, whoa. Can anyone hear us? Can you hear them? Mr. Carr, Mr. Smith, can you hear us?
I can now.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Awesome.
All right, we can start now.
Good evening, everybody. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
The United States of America,
and to the republic for which it
stands
nation,
one
under
nation,
God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we need a motion to approve the agenda. However, we need a motion to approve the agenda without the meeting minutes of February 11th. They are incomplete at the moment. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda without the meeting minutes?
Motion to approve. Yes, Mr.
Mr. Carr, Mr. Smith, either one?
Approve?
Is there a second?
Yes. I'll second.
Okay. Wait a minute. Dave made the motion. William.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
William second. Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Be sure. Are there any public comments?
No, sir.
There are no public comments. We are on to the first item on the agenda, Ladies Island Middle School green space.
I'll take that one. We have online Ethan James, who is a real estate agent for two properties that are adjacent to Ladies Island Middle School. So if you are coming from St. Helena, going towards the intersection there at Ladies Island, you'll go past Cougar Drive, and the next two lots are the properties that I think he's going to talk about. Mr. James, can you tell us why you wanted to be here?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And I had intentions on being present in the meeting, got tied up in Bluffton, and I am heading that way. If I make it there soon, I may pop in person. But so I do represent two owners that border Ladies Island Middle School property. We have had these parcels for sale for some time. I believe we even came to the school district prior to before a potential acquisition of these two parcels. Recently, we submitted an application to the Green Space Tax Advisory Committee through Beaufort County. This was last week. The Green Space Advisory Committee did show interest in trying to do some sort of a partnership with the school district on acquiring these two parcels. Collectively, there is 6 acres that run contiguous with Ladies Island Middle School. We believe the opportunity of what this could potentially do to the site plan for the new school that's being built, along with prohibiting some of the development that's coming to Ladies Island, could be a huge factor for the school district through the community. Anyway, we really just here to kind of open discussions to see if there was some sort of a collaborative partnership between the school district, the Beaufort County, and the Green Space Tax Committee.
Mr. James Kent, my understanding was that the county's committee needed to hear something from the school district before they would consider more on the application of the 2 property owners. Am I correct in that?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. So when we presented to the Green Space Advisory Committee on Friday of last week, I think it was the consensus of the full committee that they did have interest in this project or potential acquisition. They basically deferred to the school district to engage the level of interest from the school district in trying to make something work with these parcels.
I can add a little bit. So my understanding of what they were looking for from the school district is that shared parking is something they were interested in for this park, using shared parking at Ladies Island Middle School, and possibly some kind of oversight from the school district over the land in order to manage it. I think the county was intending on purchasing it and putting it in a green space trust or something of that nature. And as far as I know, am I off on that?
No, I think it's all intended to be passive activity, so it would be a passive park. However, potentially it could be the kind of place where you might have a farmer's market there if there was parking available. I think it would just depend on how that shared use would be. But I think their end goal was that the district would end up being the caretakers of said green space if it goes through the green space program. So if they make that purchase, they would then gift it to us. Am I correct in that, Mr. James?
Yes, ma'am. That was what I gathered out of the meeting from last week, was that they have the available funds to make the purchase. However, they would like to see the end user, which in this case would potentially be the school district, maintain the property or essentially maintain it, I believe is what they were looking for.
This is all preliminary. We don't really have, obviously there's not a detailed plan right now.
Correct.
Whether the school district is interested in this conversation, basically.
Yeah.
Because we're still in schematic design for the middle school. I mean, we don't think we're going to need that property, but yeah.
So am I to understand, somebody else is going to buy it and gift it to us, so therefore we would own the property?
I don't know about the ownership side. Probably the county would, well, they'd either own it or we'd go into an MOU where the county owned it and we had use of it and would maintain it, and maybe some shared parking. I don't know if it's planned to be an MOU or us actually own it.
But there's no development that would take place there.
Right.
So any shared parking would be what we already have existing.
On our site.
If we wanted to allow something to happen there on that passive use of.
So, I mean, somebody's not going to build a park there, they're just going to buy it and tell us that we can do whatever we want with it.
Well, I heard talk, one of the conversations like an amphitheater or like a lawn for, a shelf for like concerts and things like that.
That somebody else is going to build.
Yeah, so you're not.
Oh, yeah, okay.
No, as far as our portion was to maintain it and provide parking.
I think everything is on the table for discussion, and really that was the level of interest from the Green Space Committee, was just to say, look, if this is something we need to pursue further and engage the level of interest from the district. I think it also opens up, some of the adjacent land to the east of Cougar Drive. It's my understanding Cougar Drive is going to be closed off, and will be abandoned throughout the redevelopment of Ladies Island Middle School. So the land between these two parcels, Cougar Drive up to the marsh, they discussed maybe some sort of the land that the district currently owns, maybe it's donated or something to create an even larger passive park here or something that even goes to the marsh there. So could potentially be a really, really nice passive park and collaborative efforts from multiple different resources. So.
Other than being liable to maintain, I'm sorry, does anybody else have any comments?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Smith, please do.
First and foremost, when I hear about you talking about closing Cougar Drive, actually that's something I'm going to ask that we put on the agenda when we meet with County Council, because I know I spoke publicly about that, and so the chair the board spoke publicly that we don't want Cougar Drive closed, because it's always been communicated that it's always better to have two interests than one. So closing Cougar Drive will be closing an interest that we've had for years. And if it's to last time I checked, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I don't think that the county had our permission to come and decide that they're going to just go ahead and close our drive. And we had a discussion about that. So I'm a little uh, uncomfortable with even mentioning the close of that drive. That's the first coming out of the gates. Secondly, if they want to donate the land, then I listened to them donate land to on last night to Beaufort Hospital. So they want to donate the land to us, and maybe they have us put something on it or have a conversation about it is one thing. But I think having a clear understanding of exactly what may take place, who, where, what, when, why, and how is more important right now before we get any hopes up and how we discuss where we want to go, because it seems like there's like been a backdoor conversation, and I'm just me. I'm not one for that at this junction in terms of what could possibly take place, or what whoever we've been discussing, if they're going to bring it forward, then bring us the options and tell us exactly what they're going to give it to us, what it could be used for, what it could be used for, what it could not be used for, is exactly what I would like to know moving forward. And that's pretty much the who's what where what who what where when why and how is where my mind is at right now. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I mean, if the land is going to be gifted to us for us to maintain, that seems more like a liability than anything else, because then all we're doing is paying to maintain a property that we didn't want to begin with. And I'm not sure that the board has any appetite to maintain or take responsibility of a property that isn't ours. Honestly, I think I agree with my colleague in that I would rather have COAs to decide over, rather than just waste time in a meeting. It's like, is anybody, we're testing the water. Is anybody interested? No. I would rather have COAs. I would rather have something. Well, this is what we plan to do with the land. Are you guys agreeable to it? 1, 2, or 3 options, and then we can move forward. But just saying, let's test the waters and see what happens. I don't see any appetite for that myself. If nobody has any other comments, and so yes, sir.
So we actually thought the county would be presenting this, but I guess the Natural Resources Committee went this other route kind of the last minute.
I think they wanted to buy into the school district that we would at least be interested in having the conversations. So that's why,
Yeah, sure.
Mr. James said the county couldn't come because they didn't have the directive to move forward. So Mr. James, as the real estate, came forward to say, here's what we talked about.
I don't see a benefit to the property. We're not getting anything out of it other than having to maintain it. So we're spending money in order to what? I mean, we got a school right next door, so we don't need a park. I mean, they're going to have their own playground. So what do we need an additional park right next to a school for? My opinion. That's just my opinion.
Well, and I think a lot of the green space committees, direction here is to prevent additional, development specifically in this specific area for along these islands. I'm sure y'all Most of the recent inquiries for these parks have been storage and apartments. So that's something that we're trying to prohibit for the community. I think the Green Space Advisory Committee has expressed interest in purchasing this. So I think everything is on the table, and I think what they're looking for is just the open door for a conversation to hopefully try to make something work collaboratively and prevent what this property could eventually become, which is
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate because I was going to say that the door is always open. Obviously we're always willing to talk and discuss, and we're part of the community like everybody else. But right now it doesn't seem like there's any benefit to us assuming responsibility of a property that we didn't seek nor are asking for. And yes, no, anybody? Any other comments?
Yeah,
Yes, please.
I agree with you. The green space, they buy property all over and they basically take it off the market for development. They can do that without us having to have the liability of maintaining. So if they don't want development there, they have that ability by purchasing and improving.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I've talked to David Bartholomew, who's the county council for that district about this. And it was never mentioned to me that the district would be responsible for maintaining it. That's a sticking point. That has to be ironed out. I don't have a problem with, in fact, I think it'd be great not to have development in there. And green space is always nice, but I agree with you. I don't want to gain more liability for maintaining an accident, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
The Cougar Drive issue, I think, is also, I think Mr. Smith has got a good point. I think Cougar Drive has some value as a right turn only into it, where the traffic light up the other end, the left turn coming from the north there, that makes sense to me. Again, having two ways to get in and out is going to
Ingress, egress.
positively impact the traffic at that school. So a lot of good discussion, and we just have to be, like you mentioned it, stay open. Let's talk and maybe find something that everybody can agree on.
Sure.
So it sounds, the one thing is the message to the county then that you would like to see a more developed plan, is that what I'm hearing?
Or a couple,
You have concerns about the maintenance of it and, yeah, especially if you're not the owner of it.
yeah, I mean, if they're gonna gift it to us, then sure, we'll take it. But if they're gonna maintain ownership of it, but hold us liable to mow the grass? Yeah, that seems a little too far out there for me. And, did we get him back? Yeah, he's back?
Back. Mhm.
Yes, so I just wanted to say, the table is, everything's on the table and the door is always open for discussion. It's just right now, there doesn't seem anything, else to talk about. We don't want to take on, any more liability. If you come back to us with a couple of plans and something that, benefits the school, if you want us to mow the grass, we got to at least get something out of it.
okay, understood.
Any other comments on this topic?
No, sir. Thank you all for your time.
Well,
Thank you.
also, sir, I think that it's, I think that also that when it come back to us, it should also outline what the do's and don'ts and what will be the, what you can do with this land, what's willing, what can possibly, basically who, where, when, what, and why, what we can do with it, what we can't do with it. I think that's the starting point to understanding whether it will be an asset for us or a liability. I think that's the beginning point, to be honest. Thank you. And the door should be open.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. My final comments on this is, my final comments on this is like when it was posted on the agenda, there's no background information. It was just a picture. So if we could just say, hey, this is the intent of what we're doing here. I mean, I could at least do a little bit more research on my own, but I just saw a picture with a bunch of colored lines on it. I didn't know what we were having it on the agenda for. So, but, anything else? Awesome. All right.
I'll just say in closing, go ahead. No problem. Thank you.
Please, Mr. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was unaware this was on the agenda as well, and could have said more information preliminary. I think just overall the board was, I think the Green Space Committee was looking for this response was just to at least continue the conversation. So we'll work to try to get more information and a more detailed outline plan to bring back to the Operations Committee. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. James. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you.
So, also, I don't know if you remember last night, County Council did speak something about, they were going to speak to, when we did have the meeting, that they were going to speak about, I don't know if this was the 6 acres or not. Or so I'm not sure this is the 6 acres that they were going to speak. So they did mention, I was coming here, I didn't remember the County Council mentioning something about, we had a joint meeting, we having that conversation.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, I did remember them saying that last time. Yeah, but they didn't go into that in depth about it. Okay.
Alrighty. Moving on to the Pritchard Street easement agreement.
So we've had this, conversation several times and we're moving forward. We're almost ready to finalize this, and we have Dan Rybeck with the town of Bluffton, to talk about it. See if there's anything else I kind of need to, before I hand it over to him. No, that, for the new, well, I'll let Dan describe. Dan, if you could do kind of a recap of this, what this project is, as we have some new board members that have not been part of our past conversations.
Yes, thank you, Robert, and thank you, members of the committee, for your time this evening. Town of Bluffton is going to be performing Pritchard Street Streetscape Project. This is the third time that I've been in session with you all to discuss the project and the scope of work. So basically, it's a streetscape project that's going to include drainage improvement, sidewalks, street lights, pedestrian connectivity, as well as traffic calming along Pritchard Street, which is right adjacent to MC Riley Elementary School and the Early Learning Center. The first item here is related to the project work is some easements that are being requested as part of the project work. I believe that we have a easement exhibit. Yes, here we go. Okay, so as you see on your screen here, that is that building on the right side of that. That's the pool building. The green area is the existing parking lot with the proposed improvements that serves.
Can I jump in here real quick and do a little more explanation? So this actually started back with the town of Bluffton requesting our support for a grant for water quality and or for water drainage improvements. And if you're familiar with this parking lot behind or next to the pool, anytime it rains, it becomes a pool of water. The parking lot floods. And so on our side, what the town of Bluffton is doing for us as part of their streetscape project is developing stormwater improvements to get rid of the ponding water there. And so I just wanted to interject that in there for you, Dan.
Pitching and repaving the parking lot too and all that stuff. Yeah.
So our portion of this, yeah, they've done the design work, the survey work. They're looking at managing the BMP, and we're looking at responsibility to repave this parking lot, which is on top of flooding, also falling apart. So now I'll give it back to you, Dan.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, so yes, it is an improvement onto the existing condition. The parking lot is in poor shape. Part of the project work will also be a water quality BMP that is being proposed, which is in the center and demonstrated and shown in the center of the parking lot. However, this is the easement exhibit. I think there's 4 sheets associated, or maybe 3, with regards to the school property. But there's three types of easements that are going to be acquired for the project, and from the school district, they are represented in orange as permanent streetscape easement, and that's generally for the installation of the sidewalks, the conduit for street lighting, and other appurtenances related to that. So there's permanent streetscape easements represented in orange. The other types of easements are when the parking lot is a blue easement, and that's the drainage easement. That's a permanent drainage easement that basically is saying that the easement is being conveyed to the town so the town can own and maintain and operate the BMP facility and the drainage structures associated with it. And then lastly, there's a green easement area that's identified, and that's a temporary construction easement that would only then be in place during the construction period and then would go away after that period is ending. So this is the easement exhibit. Part of the actual documentation for recording the easements then is the easement description and language that's associated with that. So there'll be a drainage easement description as well as a streetscape easement description. That's a permanent easement. And then also just a temporary construction easement for that area or for those particular identified easement areas. The
Cost share, do you want to, any questions about the actual easement or the project itself?
What will be the total cost to the district, if any?
That's going to be the next part. So I think Dan's going to talk on so if there are no more questions about
What was your question?
what are the total costs to the district? And that's going to be part of the next section, which is the actual agreement between the cost share agreement between us and the town. So.
Mr. Chairman, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. I'm sorry. I can't find how to raise my hand, so I hate to be rude, but I did have one question. Can you clarify who owns that parking lot? Because that's the pool parking lot. Is it our parking lot or does it belong to the county?
It belongs to us. We own the pool property. We actually lease it to the county.
Yeah, I knew there was something. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Dan, you've got the floor on the cost share agreement.
Okay, so the next item up for discussion is the proposed cost share agreement, which is associated with the reconstruction of the school parking lot. So basically, as was represented on the easement exhibit, when we were looking at the parking lot's going to be reconfigured and basically going to be one lane in and one layout. Going to have it's going to be striped for parking spaces, parking ballards, and so forth and so forth. So the cost share agreement basically talks about the project work related to the parking lot and only related to the paving elements of the parking lot being recouped or reimbursed by the school district to the town. So the town's going to publicly the town is going to publicly bid the project. We'll evaluate the bids, award to the lowest responsive and responsible builder. At that time, we'll have the bid sheets broken out for independently of the parking lot costs. So we'll know what costs are related to repaving of the parking lot. And that work will include demolition of the existing paved area, proof rolling, the existing subgrade of the parking lot. There may be some soft areas that require undercut and so forth. We've built some contingency in there for those types of items. And then repaving of the parking lot, striping the parking lot, some signage in the parking lot, the parking ballards, or wheel stops, I should say. And right now, the estimated cost for the elements related to the parking components, parking lot components for the parking lot is estimated at $318,867. Now, that's an estimated cost based on the engineer's estimate. That will be further refined once the bids come in. So that cost will change, and then basically the town will pay the contractor for his work. And once that payment is made, I'll work with Robert and his project manager with regards to the reimbursement amount that's associated with the parking lot that's also related to this agreement. And reimbursement to the town would then take place.
Any questions?
David has a question.
Mr. Carr, go ahead.
Yeah, is this, so just so I understand a little more clearly, is this a joint project?
No, this is only related to the cost related to redoing the paving of the park.
Okay, all right, just so I'm clear. Thanks.
Mhm.
Smith, did you have a comment?
Yes, sir. So, you kind of asked part of my question. So, with that being said, basically, you were the in-between person between the parking lot and the basically the parking lot being built in the district. Is that what I'm understanding?
So if I can, they've designed the project. They are going to do all the construction on the project, including the drainage and everything else. We're just paying for the parking lot portion of that. The town of Bluffton will actually pay for the drainage improvements, and then the town of Bluffton will maintain the drainage improvements. We will pay for our parking lot, and we will maintain the parking lot.
In the third paragraph of the agreement, it says that the parties shall share equally in the cost of the work associated with paving, to include but not to be limited to, blah, blah, blah. And then it says in the highlighted area, to include the 20% contingency that he talked about was 318,000, right? But if you look at the other unhighlighted areas, it comes up to 140,000. And change, 147,000, I think. 147,000 and change. So if we're going to share equally in the cost, where's the other 160,000?
I don't understand where you're seeing the highlighted area on the exhibit is that entire top box. It's not just one portion of that. So
Correct. There are two unhighlighted areas just below the highlighted box. So I'm assuming that's the cost incurred by the town of Bluffton.
oh, well, that's work that's unrelated to the parking lot.
Okay, so if the parking lot's going to be 318,000 and the agreement says that we will share equally, it also says that we'll reimburse you 100% for the cost of the highlighted area. So which one is it? Are we sharing equally or are we paying for the parking lot?
No, the third whereas, the third whereas clause, the third whereas paragraph is incorrect in that it says that cost is shared. The cost share item below that's identified as number 3 is where it says this agreement will be, the town, the school district will reimburse the town for 100% of the cost of the highlighted items. That is the correct part. That is incorrect in the third whereas, where all we're talking about is getting reimbursed. The town would be reimbursed for the cost that's related to redoing and repaving the parking lot. And that will be a 100% reimbursement for that cost. No other elements of the project work or any other of those costs will be reimbursed by the school district. It's just related to the parking lot. So that is an error and that will need to be revised.
Okay, was anybody else under the assumption that we're going to be sharing the cost?
That's why I asked
Yeah.
the total cost, and
Yeah.
it said 100%, was it 100%, $318,000?
Now, with the 100% of $318,000 is just the asphalt portion. which we own.
It's the demo, it's the subgrade, it's the aggregate, it's the actual asphalt, the one-way stop.
Everything associated with parking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. So is like the, erosion control and all that kind of stuff, will we eventually be responsible for that also?
No, that's not part of the highlighted area.
They're paying for that.
Yeah.
That's the portion they're paying for. And if you go to this exhibit A.
Yep, I see, I'm looking.
Yeah, everything at the
Yeah,
top,
I get it.
it's highlighted, that's what we're paying for. Everything below that's still on our property, they're paying.
Gotcha. Okay, so, but what, okay, so we have figured out that the initial agreement is incorrect because it's saying that we were in
It
the,
does say that.
yeah, in the third whereas paragraph, above paragraph one, or above numbered paragraph one, in the third whereas, it says that we will equally share in the cost.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
That's incorrect.
Okay, so, have we been under the assumption this whole time that we were going to equally share in the cost?
No.
Okay,
No, the assumption was we were paying for the parking lot portion. They were paying for the drainage. They've paid for all the survey, all the design, everything to this point. So that's how, because the parking lot is ours and that's what we were paying for. So
Can't, it's the parking lot next to town hall, right? Sitting
No.
behind.
next to the pool.
no, all the way over next to the
Down
pool.
to the pool.
So our teachers use that parking lot,
Okay.
to go into the school. So it is used as a pool parking lot and as a teacher parking area.
And town hall meetings.
And yeah, I guess at night, but you've got that gravel parking lot in between. Where that asphalt parking lot that floods down there.
Has the 318,000 already been earmarked?
Yes, I was gonna say, is the F what?
So right now we have it broken out into two phases. Phase one has 275,000 budgeted. Phase two is what's being worked out with Nick right now and CIP.
FY 27.
Yeah,
So you have 275,000 approved right now in FY 26, and the additional money would be in FY 27, which will come forward in April, May.
That's 20%.
We're working on it right now.
Okay. What action do we need? I mean, other than having them come back with the corrected agreement?
Well, what do you need an action at this point, Dan, or do you want to come back next month with the corrective agreement?
I do not foresee that the cost will be changed. I think that we've established that it's basically you're reimbursing for the cost that's related to redoing the parking lot. That estimated cost is 318,000 some. If we're able to move forward with that motion and with the understanding that the current agreement will be modified, that third whereas clause will be modified to state that correctly that it's a reimbursement of the cost, the total cost of the redoing the parking lot, then if that's acceptable, we could do that. If I need to come back, I will do that.
I would prefer that you come back with the corrected agreement.
All right.
And also, before he comes back, also we have our legal team look at it and pin it down before our eyes even view it. Definitely appreciate that, so that we can feel more comfortable. I would like to know that our legal team has looked at it and has agreed to it, and they'd be able to give us any legal advice that we may need at the time as well.
Oh, Kitty.
Ms. Boatwright, did you have a comment?
No, my cat unmuted me. Sorry.
Man, I hate it when that happens. All right. Any other discussion on this topic? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry for the error, and I will see you at the next meeting then. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
For your time.
Watercrest Department easement.
Eve Andrews and Mr. Chris Bates. I'll let y'all come forward. I'll give it my thought. If you want to come to the table and present.
That's good. We appreciate that. I'm Steve Andrews, co-worker and the project engineer, Chris Bates for Watercrest Apartments. We're both with Davis and Floyd, the engineers for the project.
Now I will say, this has come to y'all before, It's almost been 2 years, yeah, 2 years ago, this is brought forward. So they've coming back now. So I'll let y'all take it from there.
Can you put up the? Yes. Okay, so it is, Robert had stated, we've been here several times to talk to the operations committee. So in the center of the drawing, the area, I know it doesn't talk to the people that are there, but I'm old fashioned, so maybe pointing. So this is the property in question, the Walmart, and then the school site, the formerly Robert Smalls Middle School. This is Highway 21, and then this is WK Austin, the school that, the road that the school takes access.
Would it be more beneficial to go down to the next slide that actually shows the apartment?
There
There it is.
you go. Okay. So perfect. So again, the 21 WK Austin, the school property. WK Austin, though it's a state road, it's sandwiched with school property. The desire from the developer, the county, the city of Beaufort, is that Ambrose Run, the east-west road that we're showing, connects from 21 to WK Austin. This is the apartment complex, or a rendering of it, 534 units. We have completed a traffic study, and it has one of two options. Either A, access can come into the apartments from WK Austin and turn right into it, or left into it, depending if they're coming from the north or the south, Broad River 170. When there was some resistance from the school, that we went back to the traffic engineers, and the traffic could come to Broad River, make improvements on WK Austin, and the traffic would come down WK Austin. The short of that is the traffic for the apartments is going to come down WK Austin one way or another. So as we have come before the school and talked to some of the members, there was a desire that we refine the traffic study and look at WK Austin with attention to the school generated traffic. And that whatever improvements were identified in that traffic study, the developer, in return for granting the easement across the school property, would then make those improvements to WK Austin. Whatever turn lanes would be necessary to mitigate the conflict, for lack of a better term, between the apartment traffic and the school traffic. And that's why we're back here again. A sidebar, sewer, or the lack thereof, has been a holdup for this project. All that's been worked out with the water authority, and there's a plan in place to move forward. So now the project can be developed. So we're back here to talk to the school. The ask from the operations committee, the school board today, is that we could enter some type of agreement, memorandum of understanding, that the school would entertain the connectivity. If you said yes, then we would go ahead and commission to do that refined traffic study. Once we have that, develop plans. It's a state road, so the Department of Transportation would weigh in on it. Once we understood what could be warranted and permitted by the state, we would then come back and ask for the actual connection and be able to demonstrate to you what benefits would come to the school by way of improvements to WK Austin. So that was a lot of information, so be glad to answer questions.
Open the floor for questions.
So
Mr. Smith?
my question would be, in terms of, when you came to the first time, we were asking for the same thing? Correct?
Correct.
And the school board told you what?
So we never made it past the operations committee. We never went to the school board. That's when we were having conversations. What can we do for the school? that would make this palatable to the school. So it's just been a running dialogue. Paralleling that was the issue I mentioned about sewer, so there really wasn't any need to continue bothering y'all until we knew the project could go forward. We're now at that point in time. What we did learn in the conversations is the traffic study that showed only making a right turn lane coming into the apartments or making the left turn lanes to come down from Broad River to WK to the apartments wasn't acceptable to the school. So that's why we said, okay, here's another consideration, and that's what we're bringing tonight. That we'll do a study for WK Austin to see, looking at the school, more refining it to the traffic that the school generates, and how could we help the school mitigate that traffic? So that's what's changed since we've been here before. That takes time and money. We would prefer not to spend that time and money until we had some buy-in from the school that concept would be palatable to the school, that y'all would entertain looking at the traffic study to see what improvements we prescribe for WK Austin. And in return, y'all would let us make the connection of Ambrose Run and put those improvements in. We just want a comfort level that y'all are amenable to that before we commission the traffic study.
Any other comments?
I have a couple of questions. Oh, sorry. I just can't. I'll wait.
Thank you, Ms. Boatright.
Mr. Guy?
I was on the chair of the committee when this was brought up 2 years ago, and WK Austin's a tough road. Got a lot of blind spots as you're going up and back from there. And basically we said turn lanes at a minimum, both left and right turn lanes. And actually a 3-lane, even 4-lane road would be even more acceptable for us because of the site issues. It's very close as you go around that corner and so on. There's blind spots coming in, and it would be very, very dangerous if you come and look at Robert Smalls in the mornings and the evenings when the parents are coming to pick up their children. You will see cars waiting out on Alston. And so that's a real concern. I think it can be done, but I think it might be expensive to put sufficient lanes on that road to be able to handle those kind of concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
Just want to clarify that I looked at it before. So is it your intention that be the main entrance to the apartments? Or is the main entrance from Broad River Boulevard?
The main entrance right now is the Broad River Boulevard entrance. Okay. So you have secondary, either coming from the east off of 21 or the west off WK Austin, and they would come down that Ambrose Run extension.
But of course, you see that the people there that will want to get on to Robert Smalls Boulevard, they're going to be going down WK Austin and coming back on Robert Smalls from Bluffton, say they're going to want to make a left onto WK Austin. So even though the main entrance is all the way up to the Broad River, the only other way to get to the Broad River is there by the stoplight, to get you on Broad River Boulevard. So, yeah, but you're going to have to put do the traffic study. You're going to have to put the wires across the road and give us a good idea of what the traffic is now.
Correct.
And then give us an estimation of what it's going to be later.
Correct.
Or are you trying to not have to do a traffic study?
No, so let me just digress. We have done.
Sorry.
We have done a traffic study,
Okay.
but it was global in nature. And what it shows is what Mr. Guy just said. The traffic's coming to WK Austin. That's a given. The people are going to come to this apartment complex using the roads that exist. It is, and it actually goes back like 4 years since we first came. What's evolved over this time and these conversations and getting feedback primarily from y'all's committee and then some from Robert, his staff shared information. That there was an interest in the school to zero in and look at the traffic study on WK Austin. That's what we're proposing now to do. And so that will require traffic counts to develop what's happening now. And then the traffic engineers project into the future and they'll come up with a plan to mitigate that traffic.
And the apartment complex is proposing to make the improvements necessary.
Correct.
So instead of doing like another study, why not just say what the improvements will be?
So that's a good question. So it's a two-step. One, we have to do the study, which costs money and is going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do that. We're just simply coming to you tonight to ask, is that concept agreeable for y'all? We don't want to just do the study if y'all are going to say, no way, we're not going to let you go.
Oh, I mean, I would like to say that we're always agreeable.
Right.
I mean, there's a compromise somewhere in the middle.
Right.
So yeah, sure, we're agreeable.
Right.
Of course we're agreeable. I believe also 2 years ago, we mentioned something about, having some lower income, opportunities for the teachers in our district, at that apartment complex, if we're going to allow you to tie into our road there. So is that still on the table as well, if we're looking to be agreeable things?
One thing that's happened is ownership changed, and so the new people haven't had that conversation. We're gathering information tonight. Yes,
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that that's still on the table then.
we'll take that back to them.
Okay.
Ms. English has.
Ms. Boatright, my apologies.
I figured out how to raise my hands. There you go. Yeah, so I was a chair of operations when this came up before earlier as well. And I think the committee's always been amenable. We didn't choose not to take it to the board. It was a dialogue, as you said. There wasn't a specific ask being made at that time. But I will share that my concern with this, which is a little bit even bigger, is this area around Robert Smalls. DOT has had many proposed traffic studies. One of them actually had a road running through our bus parking lot, as I recall. They're planning a medical office building. They're planning a bunch of retail on the other side of Robert Smalls. And I know a lot of the concern when I look at this Ambrose, because you can see where Ambrose ends currently in the dark gray, and the white is kind of the new, that's an extensive amount of road work to add in. And making sure that that does not tie in any way to the Walmart and the commercial. That was one thing that has been brought up before. So as I'm looking at this, is there any guarantees that that will not be used to tie in that parking complex? And I can see right there, there's like a little outlet right across from apartment complex 325. Is that off the table?
So the one area right across from that 325 is right now a pedestrian path, not vehicular traffic.
Correct. Could it become that as you build this Ambrose extension to WK Alston? Could it become a vehicle outlet?
So let me answer that by the Walmart and what's now the proposed apartments and the existing Cross Creek all came out of one piece of property. And when it was subdivided, the covenants have interconnectivity agreements. So it's not planned, it's not part of the current design, but that language exists in those covenants.
So that it can be allowed. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, I just, there's a lot of traffic pressure there with 170 and Broad River. And if you start putting the commercial lots into there, we want to keep the WK Alston as safe as possible for the students. And not have it be a cut through, which is what my concern is. But like you said, I think the board's amenable. We haven't ever said, no, we don't want it. But I know it makes me just a little bit nervous to think about what you said, as I understand it, an interconnectivity agreement that would have commercial properties dumping out back. And you can't see it on this map, but on the other side of Robert Smalls, there's a lot of planned commercial development as well. So I just don't know if we're seeing the whole picture. You know what I'm saying?
Mr. Smith, yes.
I concur with what you're saying, and another thing that we haven't took into place, is that right, even a half a mile, we also have another school. We have Bridges, who's on the other side of the road. And they have traffic just as well on the other side of the road built up on the same roadway. So unfortunately, while we're going over this, you know, I've got to say this is that, you know, to my colleagues, is that, you know, this is important because looking at this issue is becoming it was more of we would see more of this in the Bluff area, but the problem is now is that we hear that the county have given these permits to these new developments, and it's almost like they involve us on the back end, and we have to come out of the pocket on the front end at some point in time. So it hurts us when these realtors make these decisions to sell these properties. The county allows them, and they put it in our back doors. You know, so this is why I can't stand when I say the backdoor deals or the deals, because it affects us, and it causes us to raise taxes and ask our taxpayers for money to help fix issues that are not really school board issues. Money we have going to classes. Now we're being asked to help put this money towards making it so that everyone can get in and out of traffic. Hell, wait. I mean, like, I understand we have to come to a compromise, but when it's beginning to cost the taxpayers money, and the taxpayers elect us, and it's my job, I take this seriously. Like this is a real serious problem that we need to take to the table. And I don't need to. If I suck, I'm ranting, but I just want to iron this thing. I iron this out one more thing going to the agenda, Colonel, when we do discuss this. But just driving through it today, not thinking about that, and looking at how that complex, how you can enter, you can exit through that one side, and then you can enter further up to that. At this point in time, if they built it and they would have problem they built it, I figure we can see what they bring. But I mean, as an investor continues paying taxpayers to help them out, I think I'd be eager to see what they come up with. I'm like, I won't bother. I'm open to it, but I'm not willing to bust taxpayers' chops and say, hey, we want to just be good neighbors and spend money to be a team player. Absolutely not.
So what I understand is that you want to know that we're ready to come to the table. We are. So please continue with the traffic study. Is that the next thing, right? To consider entertaining both the right and left turn off of what is that? Ambro? What is that? Yeah. Yes. So if we're, I mean, you're going to do the traffic study, right? So what's the timeline for that? Are we still another year out or what?
No, like weeks to month or two. That they're looking at your schedule, make sure that the buses are running at peak when we do the traffic count, so we have a real thing. So that's, but yes, it's going to be a couple of months. We'll be here before summer, before you break would be the.
Right, obviously, you know, while school is still in, so we can, okay, I understand that. And then Mr. Auding and his group will have a chance to look at the traffic study Yes?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Before,
Ask a question.
please.
So, are you open to put traffic calming kind of devices on Ambrose Drive to try to slow traffic, kind of discourage using it as a cut through?
We're open, so let me just maybe digress from what you were saying. And a compliment to the board. Like we've been here several times. We've heard what you had to say. I wouldn't couch it, as you said, as a rant. Y'all are just doing what you're here to do to protect the school. We've listened and we're coming back as we've taken your input. Our thing here is to not burden you. You know, we're going to fund the traffic study, and then we're proposing to fund the improvements. So not at the table right now is the Department of Transportation. That is their road. So we have to do the study. They look at the study. They'll determine if turn lanes are warranted. So, and then just one more thing is to Ambrose Run. The city and the county have this on their comprehensive plans, like as a through street. So it's not up to us alone to just say we'll put traffic calming. This design's been approved by the county or the city, excuse me, this is in the city. And we'd have to go back to them to get their ask. So we're going to continue to listen to the school board and we'll take your ask, but there's other agencies that have a say in this. We're not the final say, is what I'm getting at. But certainly if that's a request to the school board, then we'll ask the traffic consultant to look at it in his study and how that shakes out. We'll definitely raise the question to the other agencies.
So, by the way, I'm glad you said that the study.
Hold on, Mr. Smith. Is there, raise your hand when you're ready. Is there an option for us to get together with the city and like put us all in the same room and talk this out?
I would love that to happen. Yes, that would be helpful to us.
I mean, because this back and forth is I'm sure getting tiring for you guys. And I mean, if we can put all the movers and shakers in one room and we can nail something down while we're looking at each other in the face, I think that's always the best way to do business. So maybe offline we can talk about how we can make that happen.
Is that like could our office and Robert work that out?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Are you game for that? Sorry to put you on the spot, but that's a fantastic idea. I would love that to be. That'd be helpful. Okay, Mr. Smith.
And in terms, actually, that's why I was driving the bus when you said, when you mentioned the Beaufort, the city. Yeah, in terms of putting the movers and shakers in the room, understanding that the board is the driving force to this project, but also with having everyone in one room. I kind of forgot about where I was going with this, but I forgot where I was going, but basically having us in one room and understanding the total totality of the full project is I think what we also say was important for the city, because the city is once again behind they're behind it as well, but I'll let it go before because I don't remember. So.
All right, do we have clear direction?
Yeah,
you understand what we're asking?
I do, and just for
Okay.
timing, so we don't leave here and y'all ask, why isn't this meeting happening? I do think the interest of time, we need to get that's done before the summer break.
Oh, agreed. If we're going to do the traffic study, yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think having the traffic study, it will give us something to discuss when we all come together.
Agreed.
We're going to proceed with the traffic study, or at least that's our recommendation to the people we report to. Our office and Robert and his staff will work on how to get the appropriate people together, and we'll move forward. So thank you. And it's been a journey, but we keep, each time we show up, we get a little further down the road. So I appreciate y'all time and input.
Thank you very much.
Y'all good evening.
I was saying, and also, I was going to say, also, it is also good for us to meet, but to be fair about it, the Burton people, the community, upon y'all do traffic studies too. I think is grateful that y'all go to the community and also is to get the community's input because there's a lot of moving pieces that's going on. And as a person, I feel kind of, I'm not always comfortable with making these decisions. And the people in the community, when you got the community, they're not happy. They say, well, why didn't y'all bring this to us? Or, well, because we might know something. They may know things about that area that we may not know. Just like at where county council is at now, that was no problem. How that was marshland. So sometimes the community knows different things, and they have different aspects about it as well. So I would encourage you to as well be with the community and see from people who are in that area to see how they feel about what you're proposing as well, because we have to have the community involvement. That's very important. Thank you.
All right, thank you again.
Is that it?
Yep.
Shall we move on then? In-house maintenance discussion. Real nail biter coming up. This is gonna be great. Look at me, I'm smiling.
Tanya, are you going to?
Are you hyping agenda items?
It's more for myself than anybody else.
You doing a PowerPoint or we do just talking from the doc?
Talking from they have the documents, but yes. Yeah, no, we don't have anything on top of the documents. Oh, am I wrong?
Yes,
There is a PowerPoint.
Yeah, there is done.
There is your PowerPoint that you.
I didn't know if it was part of the bigger PowerPoint.
No, this is just yours.
So which document should I
It's
put up?
this one.
Let's start with, let's start with the numbers and I'll speak based on the narrative, the words. So I'm gonna
talk about
start
that.
with all the numbers.
Okay.
All of them.
And I'll try to make it, as painless as possible. So good evening. My task was, I was charged with doing an analysis of bringing maintenance back in-house versus continuing a contractual relationship. So we are going out for bid very soon by the end of this fiscal year. I believe June 30th, the end of the contract here. So we have to go out for bid.
Sure.
We've already received an extension, so it is a requirement that we go out bid one way or the other. So the document before you today, I'm going to talk about the format first. The format is the same as the custodial analysis that I did a year ago. It was almost to the day. It was a pretty close within a few weeks of the time frame that we did last year. So I felt it was best to stick to the same format because you're relatively familiar with it. And then I added some, so the top section, and I've labeled the columns and the rows. So the columns ABC, and so I'll reference a few of those. And then I numbered the sides so we could pinpoint specific dollar amounts if we wanted to talk about certain ones. So rows 1 through 5 are going to be all your contracted services based on comparison of where we are right now and where we think we're going to be by remaining with the contract. And then 6 through 34 or 6 through 32 relate to a self-operating or also known as in-house service. And so we use some of the same assumptions, or we use knowledge of what we learned from the last contract that we went with and what increases may have occurred with that. So as we get started, I'm going to start with at the very top, right below the A, B, and C, the current annual base contract is $3.7 million on the maintenance contract right now. In addition to that, we have a maintenance supply budget. So our contract shows that we also pay for any supplies or tools and that sort of thing, and the district owns those. So basically, we're just paying for labor costs in the base contract. There are some requirements, I believe, that for example, the district pays for all the vehicles that are used, except for those of the 6 managers. So the 6 managers, their upper level management, their vehicles are owned and operated by ABM services right now. So that's what the contract entails. So when you'll see that further down as we look at costs. But other than that, we own all the vehicles. So with that, basically what we are estimating is that there would be for next budget year, a contract of $4.9 million. So that would be from the base of 30.7. And that would be a 30% increase. Now, we understand that is a big increase. It is substantial, and we saw a similar increase when we went out for bid for custodial. And the reasons behind that is that the current vendor has been held at a 3% CPI or consumer price index increase throughout the life of that contract with very few additions to that. And during that period, inflation has drastically increased. CPI, particularly in the facilities maintenance and construction areas. So in that field in particular, and there is really no outlook like many other areas like food and other costs, no outlook for any reduction in that. Labor rates, specifically for skilled workers, have significantly risen since the pandemic. And this contract is filled with skilled laborers. Another challenge for us, which I didn't mention in the narrative, is that we're a relatively small community compared to some of our neighbors. So we don't have as much skilled labor to draw from as, say, Charleston or Savannah or Columbia and that sort of thing. So it makes it a little more difficult because we have to look out, reach out a little further and have that to recruit those laborers. So those are some of the reasons that are driving those costs up, and we believe it could be as high as 30% for next year. So we believe that the increase could be at least $1.2 million, and that's in cell. I'm looking at cell A5, row 5. 1.191 is about 1.2 million. So we're looking at a big jump for next year, but then smaller increases the following 2 years, about $300,000 each of the next 2 years. We're putting a 5% increase in supplies in here because of a couple of reasons. Just increase in costs due to inflation, but also we have potential tariffs to consider as well on merchandise, tools, on materials, for repairs and replacements, those sorts of things. So we do have to take that into consideration for the possibility of those that may be on the horizon. So we're going to move down to the self-operated section, starting sort of at row 6, 32. Labor, again, represents the most of the costs of the self-operated program. Based on the information that we currently have, and I work with the facilities and operations folks to get many of these numbers, that we have 64 employees, and they are expected to cost $5.6 million in the next year, which includes salaries and benefits. So we've listed in rows 6 through 17 the specific employees and how many FTEs would be in each category and what those costs would be. In areas that we had ranges of hourly rates, we took our assumptions that we would take an average. So we took those averages and increased in the next year by, I believe it was 5% that I moved up in each year. So in addition to those employees, we are including some other direct, so that would be your overhead costs. Other direct costs would be your supply budget, which is identical. So the supply budget would be both in the contracted service area budget and in the self-operated. But other costs that would not be, that we would have to add on, at least for the first year, would be 6 vehicles for managers that are currently paid by the contractor. We'd have to add a training program and bring in contractors or skilled experts in specific areas like plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and other areas. So bringing folks in, so we consider additional cost for training and workers' compensation. Actually, and I'll speak to this a little more later, but I did talk with our insurance company, And I originally projected about a 56,000 or, and rising a few, by percentages each year. But, later estimates came back at about 125,000, so about 75,000 more than this. So, that came back a little too late for me to edit this for you, but so that, estimate's a little low. And then we'll have some additional insurance costs as a result of 6 additional vehicles. So the extra department overhead would be about $2 million there. And then indirect costs or other costs that are a little harder to quantify, how much additional work for the payroll department of 64 employees to onboard them. Those costs are going to be higher in the first year because of all the signing up for benefits and insurance and certain deductions and retirement plans and then so on. So that'd be a combination of human resources and payroll department. And then setting up other items like ongoing recruitment. So there's an initial recruitment cost, which would to find the skilled workers, which would need to be done very quickly, as soon as possible, actually. And then ongoing as the turnover occurs in the industry. So about 228,000 on the indirect cost. So overall, it looked like we were about $8 million total. So my initial estimates were that it would be about $1.6 million more in the first year to bring in-house versus contract. And then there would be increases the other years, but not quite as much because of some of the initial costs would already be taken care of in the first year. So the analysis, again, was a joint effort from facilities and operations, HR, finance, but also I had 2 third-party validators. After I had a short window of time because I had to go out of town, but I was able to speak with and run things by a few folks in the office, and a very good recommendation came forward, and that was to contact Mr. Reggie Murphy. Reggie was an employee of the district. Well, first of all, he has an MBA. He's a retired CPA who performed contract management with the Postal Service for over 30 years. So he did contracts, construction, all those things, all over the country. After retiring from the Postal Service, he worked in several municipalities, including Lexington County, Town of Port Royal, as an interim town manager, actually. And in the school district for over 12 years as a contract manager, internal controls director, and procurement director. And after leaving the district 2 years ago, he began assisting other municipalities in South Carolina with special projects. One in particular in Barnwell right now, he's working on a FEMA claim. Or Bamberg. It was the tornadoes that went through Bamberg. So he emerged as a very experienced person to be able to look over the contracts that he was already familiar with. And so he landed some really good points, and many of them are in the narratives that you have today, in particular reasoning for the 30% increase that we're estimating, which would be holding that CPI low and other inflationary pressures, as well as the tariffs. But also his main question to me was what is the cost of finding skilled laborers in this area and having the ability to do that? With a contractor that may be a national company, they may have a farther reach. They can put out a broader network across the country, where it may be a little more difficult for an in-house recruiting staff to be able to do that. It's still possible, but it might be they have resources that we may not have. So I don't want to lend to any direction, but the numbers show that it sort of pushes us in one direction. And the second validation I received was from Mr. Lyde Graham. He happened to contact me about an insurance matter last week and said, is there anything I can do for you? And I said, yes, you can validate my assumptions on workers' compensation. So I said, oh, I can have 2 validators. So, anyway, he took a look at it, but, again, I was able to get that validation and confirmation from our risk manager, Jennifer Staten, a little later than this report, but both confirmed that my number was a little too low. So it's about 75,000 more than what I have here on Road 22.
Can I just interject one on behalf of what you say?
Yes, sir.
Last week, Mr. Lyde Graham, the skid bid director for the Southbound School Board Association, he brought in some carriers, workers' compensation and other property and casualty. And it was kind of shocking when he talked about what the potential increase was. So I was glad to hear when I looked at $56,000 that you said, wait a minute, there's more.
There is more. This was my initial estimate at $74 a person times 64 people times, that was per month, times 12 months. His estimates were much higher. And so were Ms. Staten's. She said 125, he said 125 to 160,000 a year.
What compliments were going and getting that outside target developed.
Well, he came to me, so he just fell in my hands. So it just happened right at the right moment. So, all estimates show that it would be about 1.6 million more than outsourcing for the first year. So I'll end on that note and take any questions you may have.
Well, I lost.
Mr. Smith, please.
Yeah, well, I'll start off with this. Personally, I disagree in terms of some of the information from the report in terms of for years, we've never had a problem finding custodians. It's in this district and not even even I talked to some of my colleagues in other counties, and the number one thing that people are experiencing is pay. If you pay them, they will come. It's the same thing with the buses, is that there's competition now. So either we're gonna pay like we weigh, or either we're gonna keep hiding behind contractors treating our people like they're second-class citizens. And quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing custodians and people in the building saying that, listen, y'all hire these contractors and they don't pay us half of what y'all said they're gonna pay us. Y'all give teachers and everyone bonuses. And we go to these buildings, we say, well, why do some of these buildings aren't clean? Our custodians say that, well, look here, y'all wanna work workers half the way, and then sometimes we have half of the staff here, and half of the staff ain't really here. So you got 2 or 3 and some people in some of these buildings at night and in the daytime cleaning these buildings. So once again, it comes back to me as in, are we gonna really pay them what they're worth? And I think if we pay them I believe if we pay them what they're worth, they will do their job. And also in the power, the ability of hiring people in the communities that they take a special interest in those schools. People who are from that community who work in those schools, they take ownership. I pay taxes here. This is a building in my community. So it's a bit of a different ownership versus someone just coming in and looking at it as a job. JOB, just over broke. That's what it stands for. So I don't think that these 6 vehicles that they have across the county, I don't think that we need, because every building should have its own supervisor. And if you have a supervisor in the building, then why do you need a vehicle for going from one building to the next in terms of maintenance managers to see if our custodians are doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Mr. Smith, this is for maintenance, not custodians.
This is maintenance, totally different.
Okay. So I'm okay. I'm thinking she's saying that we needed 6 something like. Oh, okay.
I do want to mention one little point, that this estimate bases labor rates on the self-operated or in-house at a 20% increase. Mr. Audie, Ms. Majors did a study of several other school districts in the area, or in the state. And we saw that our rates were considerably lower, and we increased those by 20% in this estimate. So we recognize that our rates need to increase in order to attract highly skilled employees. So I wanted to make sure that we included that point, that we did considerably increase that, and do expect that that will be happening with the next school year, whether it's contract or in-house.
Mr. Guy.
I'm going to talk a little bit for Alice Walton, who's not here, but it's one thing to go for custodians. Custodians do this, the same common skill set with all those schools. It's another thing entirely to deal with different labor markets for different skills. For example, plumbers, you're going to have what plumbers make. Well, plumbers don't make the same that electricians make. You got to go. So what the HR department is going to have is a recruiting problem, and they're going to have to fill these positions in 3 months in all these different labor markets. And that's, I think Alice Walton would say, good luck getting that done.
Okay, I'm gonna ask, can I ask you a question? Were you, because you're talking about custodial, but were you asking them to do a study for the maintenance? So she just talked about maintenance. You're on custodial. I want to make sure that you know that we are making the contracts and all of the things to have this with maintenance, not custodial.
Right.
And it looks like custodial is A-OK with their staffing, but to get all this contractor worker with a maintenance will be a nightmare for sure, in my opinion. But
The reason it's confused is because we just did this last year. I'm sorry, custodial. Yes.
all right,
So yeah, we did this whole,
Greatly improved since last year.
yeah, so we went through this whole assessment last year for
Okay.
custodials.
all right.
And the reason we're doing it now is because our maintenance contract is coming up. Honestly, if we're gonna do this, we should have done it 6 months ago.
Right.
I mean, and we have that opportunity to remind ourselves, and I'm guessing the contract's 3 years.
Well, they're actually 5-year contracts with 1 year.
Well, so in 5 years, in 4 years, we can remind ourselves to do this
We
again.
could look every year. If
Yeah.
things are going downhill, we could bring it up and decide if we want to do something different.
Ms. Boatright?
Thank you. As I said, with the custodial, when we did this exercise, I have a problem with us outsourcing maintenance and custodial. I've done a little bit of research, not, it's hard to do exactly, but a lot of districts have in-house maintenance. And they don't contract it out. And I understand we're in a constrained market, but let me tell you why I have a problem with outsourcing custodial maintenance. I agree, Tanya, very much with your projections and your assumptions. There's only so much. We're not going to have anything like final numbers, but I think your assumptions are probably in the ballpark. And I think it is more expensive to bring maintenance back in the house. But the question is why, right? And I think there's 3 possible answers. Number one, the school district and, government is much less efficient in running these operations. Number 2, benefits. Because we know for a fact that these third-party contractors, they say they offer benefits, but the benefits are more or less worthless, and they've acknowledged that pretty much no one takes them. They pay very little, so most of the expense goes onto the employees who they're already paying not that much money, right? So, or the third option is maybe a little bit of both. Maybe it's a little bit of efficiency. We seem to have a director, an assistant director, program manager, I don't know if we need all that. So I do think that those numbers are correct, but here's one of the problems I have. In what we talk about happening with artificial intelligence, and we're already seeing it tremendously in industries like finance and in industries like technology, human resources, they're being replaced. Some of the data entry, some of the entry-level positions are being replaced pretty rapidly by artificial intelligence type agents. So what the theme you hear from people that are talking about AI's effect on the job market is the people that are needed to be on site in person. So that'd be teachers, doctors, nurses, custodians, maintenance workers, HVAC repairmen. They should do well and they will probably do better than they have been doing with this new economic model. Because it's hard to outsource that stuff. It's hard to outsource the people that need to be in the classroom to fix things, right? It's hard to outsource an air conditioner repairman. So, and yet we've kind of turned that model on its head, because I would wonder, and I would challenge you to find someone who works at the district office doing data entry, doing IT, doing some of that baseline stuff where you're not needed to be in person, that doesn't get benefits that we outsource. I think there's an opportunity to outsource some of those jobs and save some money. But as far as I can tell, we don't outsource any of the district level jobs. So that's number one. Number two, these are the people that are in the classroom. And I think we need to prioritize employees that are working in the schools and classrooms. Maintenance and custodian, as I've said in other contexts, is extremely important to teacher satisfaction, parent satisfaction, and student satisfaction. So we should really emphasize the importance of those jobs. And one way you do that is you give them benefits. So I think that the third thing is we talk a lot about wanting to expand our CAPE offerings, right? So to teach HVAC repairmen, to teach plumbers, to teach electricians, because we see that as a burgeoning job market. And then at the same time, we're like, yeah, but we don't want to recruit them and hire them because that's a pain. So I think we have to think about, and I agree with our chair's comments, 3 months probably doesn't give us enough time. But I do have fundamentally a problem with us outsourcing teaching assistants, sped, maintenance, and custodian, those jobs that are working in the classroom, and outsourcing those and denying those employees benefits and connection to the district, when we're not doing that with the jobs that in more traditional private sector economies are more easily outsourced. So I'm not making a motion one way or the other or a comment. I'm just saying these are my philosophical problems with us outsourcing these positions. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
And actually, you said it very nicely, Ms. Barr, and I do apologize. We lost when you said the vehicles, and actually, I remember last year, and my mind just went off. We were supposed to come back after we were hired to come. I remember somewhere we talked about it, and so when I saw it, when I was listening, I said, okay, must be today's the day. I was thinking that we were supposed to revisit in terms of we were not going to wait until the contract until we ran into a crunch time. We were going to revise it and look at it. So I was thinking that today we were looking at custodians. So when you was bringing to that information, I wasn't thinking of maintenance. As you said, I was thinking of custodians, and so I'm like managers. I'm like, what? And so I do apologize for that. But everything I've said along the lines of having people who work in our or who live in our community, work in our community, to me, some of that same stuff is along with the same is along the same notion of what we're saying. And to be honest with you, if this is brought to us 3 months before getting our contract, then this is a shame. Because there's no way that this should be brought to us 3 months knowing that this won't give us the time. If everything's always brought to us and it's right now we have to make this decision, then that doesn't give us the effectiveness to make sound decisions in terms of being able to make sound decisions, as in a great period of time to be able to sleep on it and understand it and be able to run numbers and go back and look at things with the comfortability of sleeping and knowing that you made a good decision. So through that, 3 months doesn't give us time, and I do hear people. And I have a homeboy who works on the air station, and he is he works in the air conditioning department, and he too has told me that guys they have left the district and come over here because they have a package deal. We don't have a package deal over here, and that once again that these same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same story. These companies that we deal with, who are third party, who we contract with,
our taxpayers who come and work here like trash. So at some point in time, we have to change something up. So do we look at doing maybe half of our maintenance guy, and maybe we do half this year, because we talked about that before with the custodians. Maybe we do half one year and half the next year. Do we buy 3 trucks and then and contract the other half of it? But once again, 3 months will definitely put us in the crunch. So now the question becomes, how long do we accept a maintenance contract, or how long do we go to contract? Because I believe that we have the authority to put the number of years of contract of a contract that we want. Either you want the contract or you don't want the contract. So I mean, do we do a year contract or 2 years contract at max, and say, hey, we're looking to start with maybe next year, getting maybe part of the maintenance guys in-house? So I think there are ways to look at now is about how do we capitalize on the time that we have, and how do we make a sound decision working towards the end goal that will best, please, that will best be a compromise for everyone, that we all can be comfortable. I think that's where I'm at with that.
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, so, the custodial was reviewed almost exactly a year ago, if I recall correctly. We had the same type of conversations as in our house. Then also external, skill sets were obtained to review the methodology to make sure they were tight and as accurate as the experts could say. And now look at custodial. No, custodial.
Okay.
I'm using custodial as an example. Remember the challenge that we had with the qualitative performance of the custodial function before we changed the contract. We still have external service providers, but we're managing them very tightly with specific non-negotiable outcomes. Now, Ms. Majors and your operation, rest of the board, you've actually given us visual data that we can manage it very well. So I think we have an example of how going external and properly and very tightly managed works. Now let me put it into an external factor. Yes, yesterday, Department of Education slashed $1 billion out of funding that goes to public schools. That's the environment. But I don't think now's the time to experiment. If we can improve it internally, I'd say, if Mr. Smith is alluding to, take maybe a 2-year contract, but I think it's going to be hard to get people to invest and commit if when we've traditionally done 3 years and then we're saying 2. So I would say look internally as you've done before, see how you can basically identify some improvements in terms of holding the service provider accountable, because we need to show in this environment that we're going through and we're looking at everything, just like the federal government is doing. And look at all the epiphanies that have been uncovered there. So I'm just saying, in terms of the overall environment, I think now is not the time to actually look at it going forward. Absolutely. But we need to show we are ahead of the train, the wagon, so to speak.
Now you mentioned that our contract is 5 years with 1 year, 2 1-year extensions.
I believe that's the format, that the way it's set up. Well, no, it's a 1-year renewal for 5 years.
Oh.
So every year it's looked at. So
Oh,
if
okay.
anywhere along the way, it could be decided that you want to cancel that contract and go another way.
So we made that change when we put the RFP out for custodial. One of the things that we identified that was kind of holding us back, the new custodial contract, is our format for our term, which was a 3-year base with 2 1-year extensions. So to give us a lot more room to evaluate, we moved it to our base term of 1 year with 4 1-year annual extensions, just so we could reevaluate our custodial contract annually.
Excellent. Let's go right.
I have a question. If and I appreciate the comments. And Mr. Dallas is, very adept at looking at the bigger business model, the bigger financial picture. And I agree with him 100% that we need to show as a board that, you know, we're being stewards of taxpayers' money, and we may lose some money here and there. So I think it is a time to do some belt tightening. But to that end, I would like to know, have we ever considered what other jobs that we could contract out that are currently, you know, besides custodial maintenance? Because there are a lot of other, I think, services that we could use that would perhaps bring in even more savings to the district. Are we considering outsourcing anything else?
Not that I am aware of under my purview.
It might be a human resource question.
Yeah, maybe we could put that on a future agenda topic, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know what you got there going on with your camera and mic there, Mrs. Boatwright, but you have a very musical voice right now. Everybody hear that?
Oh,
Yeah.
Is it piano music?
No, it sounds like there's some kind of like you have like an acoustic filter on your thing that's like adding melody or some type of chorus behind you.
That's kind of
I do have,
AI.
I have one of those, we have a piano competition here on the island, and we host pre-professional pianists, and one of them staying with me. So if you hear, I actually have a concert level pianist hanging out in my house playing the piano. So I don't know if that's coming through or not.
Maybe that's what that is. Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. So moving forward, what's the next step forward with this?
This was requested by the committee, so we brought it forward. So,
Well, I don't know that we can, as a committee, we can't make a decision. So I think this might be something where we take to the full board and say, open a discussion to the full board. But that takes a motion, correct? Take it to the full board.
No, we could just put it on.
Just put it on the agenda.
we can talk about it at the operations committee. if you wish to. I would say this time we are at any time going to come out with the maintenance RFP. We're actually a little behind where I'd like to be in order to have that in place by July 1. So it could even come out between now and when the next board meeting occurs. Yeah, actually it needs to, because the next one's like 2 weeks out. So yeah,
So this wouldn't go up, this report wouldn't go on until our April 4th or April 1st meeting.
by that time, the RFP for maintenance will be on the street.
Has the agenda already been set for the work session at the end of the
We
month?
said it yesterday, but I mean,
You don't have committee conversations then.
we don't have them, but I mean, if you're requesting for it to be put onto the agenda, you just,
Ask the chair.
and you have a
Officer here.
officer here and
The actual board meeting goes later though.
Right, I mean, and we could put out, RFQs and RFPs or whatever, and still, no, sorry, I didn't see you, raise your hand.
Not a problem, no.
You throw something at me.
No, you're a Marine, I wouldn't do that. What you may want to consider, Mr. Chair, is to move forward with the fact that we have a ongoing process. And then take a little bit more time, because with the way that you potentially could modify the contracts in your RFP, you can build in a 1 year rather than the extension like you've done with custodian. Then if you want to change it, take some rigor and some time, really go through it. And as Ms. Boatwright said, there may be other positions that we can outsource as well.
Right.
And I think that would, the optics of that would be very good for us as an organization. And then they can go forward with the RFP, and we can do a rigorous study under your leadership and the other board member and see what's the best way to go forward. I think it's very timely to do that.
I honestly think that's probably the best option.
Well, actually, that was part of what I was going to do. That was what I was going to say when he was saying, we were saying that no, we could come up with something. I was going to. But she said it very elegantly. I was going to say, I think that we do at this point in time, we have no choice but to do exactly what he said in terms of moving with that, with the recommendation, because as he stated already, the RFP is gonna come out, but I think the RFP should, be, in terms of, like you said, 1 year. So that would give time to,
Right, was what we just said, so.
Right.
So,
No, actually, no, we didn't say he made he said that you could, but now I'm saying moving forward that.
Right, I understood.
No, let me finish. My thing is, at this time, I'll be making a motion that we move it forward to get a second to the board, also with the understanding that in the RFP, it's no longer than a year. So therefore, that's different because I'm making a motion as a committee member to move this forward.
oh, okay, you didn't say the words.
Okay, at this point in time, I'm making a motion to move it forward to the full board as a recommendation with the understanding that the RFP will be put out for a year. And we will we will work collaboratively, to, you can, fill in the blank, Mr. Dallas, in terms of what you just said, in terms of, looking into a year, is that?
Well, what I thought I said, hopefully I was trying to say is you could have your contract so that it's long enough that it doesn't interfere with the natural
process
of bidding, right? It's gonna be hard to get people to take a contract for 1 year.
Correct.
Right, and that's what I've seen. So you can put it in there as long as you have an exit clause in that contract that you can terminate it at the 1 year mark. That way it's there, you can do your rigorous review, and then if you decide, wait a minute, there's a better way, then you pull the trigger.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes, go ahead.
that is the way the contract's set up.
Yeah.
It is a 5-year every year it has to be extended.
Okay.
So it has for 1 year with 4 1-year extensions. Wait,
Okay.
Correct.
so it's already set up that way.
That's good.
There isn't a motion required then, because that's something that's the process that's already done.
It's already in that.
But the motion is to take it to the full board.
But I'm saying, he was saying it's a process. If they do the RFP, that's your current process, right? So you're taking it to the full board to change the current process?
Right,
No, no.
can this committee actually change the way he is putting out his maintenance contracts without the full board or without the superintendent's input? We can actually tell Mr. Otting, hey, don't put out an RFP. We want to come in-house.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, I'm asking.
The board can.
The board could.
This committee
Okay.
cannot.
Yeah,
This-
you recommended the board.
And I'm only asking as a new member because from attending some of these committee meetings, there's a lot of reaching going on in conversations. There seems like a lot of what we are telling is telling them how to do their job. So I really just want to get an understanding of what happens in these committee meetings and how much we are impacting their day-to-day work. Seems a little, because her doing this contract at this whole study at this late time and day is like a waste of her time.
Well,
So I'm only asking to learn because I am new here, but
Right.
there's definitely a lot of reaching.
Through coherent governance, our job is to oversee policy and to make sure that the policy is being followed. Now, we can affect policy, right? But we can also influence policy. But right now, if we're going to make any changes, then we have to take it to the full board. So if we're going to talk about what's going on in here, the whole point of this is to decide, make sure, ask questions on behalf of the board to try to do the Herculean effort of analyzing the policy to make sure that Mr. Audin is following the policy, making sure that that is being done in the committee before we take it to the full board.
Gotcha.
Does that answer your question?
but
It leaves some more.
Mr. Smith?
and then also to speak to what she's speaking about, what she said overreaching. Actually, so when we come to these committee meetings, actually every person who comes to represent the whether it's HR, whether it's facilities, whether it's finance, these are people that Dr. Rodriguez had he assigned these people to come here and speak for him. So when they're here speaking, they're speaking for him. So they are his voices. So when we ask these questions, it's no different from my understanding is from him being here and answering these same questions. So I don't think it's reaching because of the fact that they are the professionals in these different areas. So therefore, it is our job as board members to ask some of these questions and answers for our constituents. And these are the people that he has appointed to come and have these conversations and sit to the table with us. So I don't think that there's a far reach, because we always take we take everything back to the full board too, and we majority of the time also when he's there. So therefore, at that point in time, not only is at the board meeting is he there, these people are there too. So therefore, everything that is talked about, it comes back full circle. So he wants them to come in and listen and answer these questions. Yeah.
Oh, hold on a second. There's still, you made a motion.
So my question regarding the motion.
Okay.
So we're putting a motion out, motion to move forward to the full board that the RFP be put out for 1 year. You're making a motion for a process that's already being done. That's my question.
Which is what I'm trying to handle right now.
Yeah.
So what is your motion exactly?
Well, my motion was to go ahead and take the and basically to move forward with it with the understanding that the RFP was going to go out to be a year, not asking saying change the RFP, but with the understanding that hey, the RFP would be a year. So therefore, we would stay the course. If that makes sense. That was.
We're staying the course. So do you want to withdraw your motion?
Right. So yeah, right. Yeah, that's fine. That would be fine. So basically, at this point in time, my question would be: so there's no discussion needs to take place with the full board. Would be my question, because that was my point of bringing it to the full board.
Right. There still is going to be discussion to the full board because the full board is going to have to decide or approve the contract anyways. So when we open it, if we're going to put it up or let it go out for RFP, with the understanding that it's a 1 year contract, and that's already the case, 1 year contract with 4 1 year renewals, then that covers what you want. And then once it goes to the full board, there will be a motion in a second and then an opportunity to discuss. And at that time, the board can discuss whether or not we want to move forward with the contract. Now, what we need to decide right now is, do we want to bring the conversation to the board on whether or not to keep it as a contract or try to move it in-house? And what we're saying right now is that we can't have that discussion to the board until March 28th at the earliest, or April 4th, which at that point, we're getting way behind the 8 ball as far as being able to find labor and move everything. That's too short of a window because our contract expires at the end of June, right? Which gives us 2 months to find a workforce if we wait that long to put it on the agenda in front of the board.
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. I just was looking for, I was looking for when we were going to discuss this prior to that, but that's also.
Yeah, I don't, Mr. Dallas.
No, sorry.
Yeah. I don't know that we have enough time to move this in-house this year. We don't. So I think right now we would just stay the course like you mentioned, and move forward with it with the 1 year contract for 1 year renewals. And then really spend a year, as Mr. Dallas alluded, spend a year deciding whether or not if we want to cancel the contract or not. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Mr. Dallas, did you have anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Boatwright, Mr. Gordon, did you have any comment? You've been quiet, Mr. Gordon. Is there anything you wanted to say? Or
No,
Mr. Small?
I'm good. Everything moving right along there. I'm good.
Mr. Small, do you have any input? 3, 2, 1, and you're done. All right.
Mr. Carr is on as well. He's a committee member.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Mr. Carr, you got anything? You good?
It's been a good conversation, and I agree with the chair that our timeline is really limiting in terms of making any change. But I think moving the process forward to examine where we are over the next 6 to 8 months makes sense.
Excellent. All right. Moving on then. Maintenance and custodial update, if you will, please.
I'm going to go through this rather quickly.
Say it isn't so.
Yeah, it's just, we have two more agenda items, and I want to allow some time for those other agenda items. So you'll see here before you, we've presented to you the custodial maintenance report for the month of February. On the first page, we completed from the district side and school administration 133 inspections. We had vendors complete 471 inspections. You'll see below towards the bottom of the page are high and low score averages across the district in those various places and locations. Moving on to page 2, the top section, we have our 3-month trending where we're at overall for our staff. Our overall staffing, we're actually pretty high between the 3 vendors. For our overall staffing, all being over our 95 or our 90% is our contract measurement. We did report going down the page 3 deficiencies for Bud Group and 5 deficiencies for ADM. Those were due to non-compliance cleaning specifications, which basically means we did an initial inspection that fell below an 88%. We did a re-inspection, and upon that re-inspection of that space, that second inspection fell below 88%. Again, it warranted a non-compliance to cleaning specification. We're going to just keep on moving. There was an ask at our last committee meeting about presenting benefits, and what did that look like? So what we're trying to do at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3 is give the committee a snapshot of what's in the contract. So that first section under benefit overview shows specifically it was pulled directly out of the custodial contract, and it is the minimum of what the school district required the contractors to carry for voluntary benefits, as well as paid time off. Yes, sir.
They just said in the, I don't want you to keep talking because they just said this and that, in 2 minutes the recording is going to stop.
Right, I think that was her Firefly thing. That's not.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate that. So that top section is what's specifically in our contract. That is the contract minimum. The going through to the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3, what we did is provide you a snapshot of what each vendor provides in relation to their base benefits, their voluntary benefits, as well as their supplemental benefits for their vacation time, their paid time off. The other thing that we put in here in each vendor subsection is their recognition program. There is language in our custodial contract that each vendor is required to have an employee recognition program. So as you move through each vendor section, you're going to see their recognition program, what they're doing for their employees to celebrate them. Yes, sir, Mr. Dallas.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I look for correlations, and when I look at the red, and then I look over and see who it appears as the best benefit package, like Bud. And Bud, on the front, has no red. So is that telling us that there's a correlation between the better benefit packages, the better performance of that particular vendor?
I will say in response to that is this particular vendor came very strong in with their startup process. During our implementation period, they had more hands-on desk, more regional and corporate benefit people. Their support and how they've rooted their account with their upper level support from a corporate level has been very different than the other 2 vendors. Their training program is much higher as far as their expectations for trainings and what they provide for devices to employees. So I would say their business model and how they're structuring the contract definitely shows them to be a lot more successful.
So the second question is there a way without sort of weakening their competitive advantage to the other 2? Is there a way to raise the standard expectations we have in terms of benefits? But you've already done that, identified what the minimum is.
I'll let Robert answer that.
I was going to say, and I don't know if there's a way, the only mechanism we have here, if someone is underperforming, is to no longer continue working with them, and then those contractors that are being successful will take it over. So it's kind of, contract is a compete, and if you fail, the winning competition will take over your contract.
What is the, if I may, what is the period when you make that go, no-go decision on the least performing contract?
There is no, at any time, we can make that. Well, we would need to give them a notice to cure, and I think, is it a 90-day notice to cure? We can set the amount of days, 60 to 90 days typically, for them to develop. They have to come back with a plan, and they have to implement that plan. So once we decide that there's a vendor that's underperforming that we'd like to part ways with, step one's a notice to cure, to notify them of that. They have a time period to correct it. If they don't correct it, then we would part ways with it.
Last comment, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please.
I won't name contractors, but it may be time to do an assessment and pull the trigger. Because if you can spread it to the best performer more, our scores will go up. Probably, possibly. Kind of ruthless, but business after all.
If we can go down that road, if that's the committee's desire.
Well,
the board's
I'm raising
desire.
for consideration. I'm not mandating.
We did not set standards on that.
So there is contract language, and I can pull it and put it in my next report next month. There is specific contract language that is a specific measurement standard for an annual review that directly speaks to what you're saying, which there's a measurement standard there. And if they're not meeting that measurement standard by that annual renewal timeframe, then there is language in there that we have the ability to have conversations making potential changes.
So to Mr. Smith's points earlier, just well, I looked at very quickly was the level of benefits and the level of performance. And that's inverted.
Yeah, and I think what Brandy was kind of alluding to, we're also seeing there's even more to it than that.
Okay.
But yeah,
No problem.
but to your point, yeah, there are more factors that are contributing, but you can tell who the winners and the losers are.
Yeah.
Pretty evident.
It's
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Moving through, we're just going to go continue down to page 3, recognizing success. So I already spoke to the 90% or greater. We had that overall staffing achievement. We had both our maintenance and our custodial contractors attend our summer coordination meeting. So we appreciated their partnership. That's actual meeting we start in February, and we'll have a handful of meetings up through May to get not only our contracted service providers, but our district office staff, instructional, technology, construction. We all get in the media center, and we just kind of talk through what does summer closures look like, what our planning, what's our planning going to be. So both our vendors came in for those meetings and participated with that. Moving on to page 4. This page, we just captured some successes. We had ABM that did a 10-year service certificate. They helped us transition from our previous waste pro disposal provider to our 2 new waste service providers. We had Bud Group that showcased some employees of the month, and then Interstate Premier, who focused on some staff education and creating some more reference documents for their employees that are in the field actually completing the services. Any questions before I move on to maintenance? No? Okay. Maintenance, first page, we go through our data where we're work orders. We've got our work orders in progress. We're still pretty high at 5,596. As you move down the page, what I'm looking at is that far right-hand column, our completion totals for February. If you look at our 3-month trend, we're still low. We completed 1,654 in previous years. We were a little higher. If you continue down that page, you'll see that percent of maintenance initiated work orders. This is the other category that I like to look at to see how active are our maintenance workers in our facilities, really identifying some other things that we've got going on. We were trending low last month and we're starting to move up with that graph and that percentage. So we think that trend continues to go up. Our next page, we focus on crafts. So this month, as in previous months, we have HVAC and plumbing were our high craft categories. Bluffton Elementary School had HVAC work orders at 16. That put them at the highest, and Broad River at 16 for plumbing. We're just going to continue to move through. Our next two pages, we focus on our north of the Broad and south of the Broad work order assignment data. You see our north of the Broad, 5.03 days. So we are seeing an average days of completion increase. But we did see an increase in our 0 to 14 days to complete, go up to 92% for north of the Broad. I'm going to move to south of the Broad and see that. You see their increase go from 3.5 to 4, a little over 4 days. But we also see their completion totals at the 93% within the first 14 days. So that looks very promising. Hilton Head Island Elementary School was featured for our school blitz. That was their south of the Broad blitz. We'll be focusing on the north of the Broad school next month, this month in March. They were able to identify 39 work orders, complete 34. They have we're still pending. These pictures here show you they did some assembly projects for sped equipment. The picture to the left is actually pictures of a ballast replacement. And Robert, when he saw this report, he said, really, I don't understand these pictures. Why are you including these? They're not really like report worthy. And I said, well, there's a reason for that. So the reason for these pictures are to let you guys see how things go with a visual example from maintenance to capital. So what we're seeing with our lighting is a lot of our lighting throughout our district is starting to become obsolete. Fixtures such as these, once we've replaced bulbs and ballasts and we piecemeal parts, we get to a point where our maintenance department identifies that, more than 50% of a school, their fixtures actually need to be replaced. We can't piecemeal them anymore. So that's when this type of project will then get identified and move to our construction project management team. Okay. Moving down the page, maintenance staffing. We are still, we reported the same figure last month, 87.5%. We are still 8 positions down in maintenance. So the struggle to recruit and fill these positions, even for our maintenance provider, is very present. And historically, we've not seen that with our maintenance provider.
Well, Mrs. Boatwright made a comment earlier about our CTE programs. I think we need to have a conversation of how do we become a self-licking ice cream cone? It's like how do we grow our own? How do we grow our own maintenance providers?
Right.
And is there taking somebody with an apprentice program coming out of Jasper Ace or out of one of our CTE programs and bringing them under our wing, so to speak?
And I will say from a district level, I know I personally had these conversations. Mr. Otting has had this conversation when we meet with maintenance weekly, when we meet with their regional corporate leadership, and we have our client business reviews with them quarterly. We have the same conversation with them, and we say, you need to tap into TCL. You've got to tap into our local educational trade markets and our CTE programs, and it could be excuses. We've heard that they've tried and that they're just not getting any momentum with those partnerships. So I agree. I think that is a value if we could get there. I would ask that if there's anyone on this committee or even the board that can maybe assist with supporting those partnerships. I think that there's maybe a bigger conversation here that we can potentially ask for some board members to create those connections. And that way we can really show that trying to really come together, is a responsibility. It's our maintenance vendor's responsibility to recruit and to provide staffing for the contract, but would we be good stewards and finding the ability to create those connections possibly, especially going into a new contract?
Mr. Smith, you had your hand up.
Yes, I had a question. First off, let me say thank you for your presentation. Your presentations are always fruitful, are always powerful, and they're always straight to the point and gives a lot.
I love the pictures.
Feedback. I appreciate that. My question is, you mentioned about the plumbing, about the plumbing. There were two places where plumbing was Broad River and somewhere else.
Focus in under our craft section.
Right.
And then in our recognizing success, we talked about, on the last page of the report, there's a focus on, we're using that beacon alert system for our water leaks. And we do report that Beaufort High School and Broad River were two schools that we were able to find pretty significant water leaks using that new beacon notification system.
Right, and so you alluded in your presentation that there was some issues going on at Broad River. Oh, they had the most work orders.
They did,
right.
Yes.
And so my question is, what is that in terms of what does that look like? What's the like? How did we identify what's going on there? Because if they're having, then all the school, if they're having a large amount of work orders, then obviously there's some things going on, and what would be due to spot like that or did we or how basically what was our action?
So basically, what we did was pull the report to see if that craft category 211 work orders requested. So what we did is pull those 211. Out of those, what school had the highest? So then once we pulled that data, and I actually looked at the data to see, okay, what is it? Are these 16 were, Broad River had the highest? Are these work orders that were just plumbing fixture change outs? And so if you read through the analysis, there was the water leak that had a lot of the work order counts go up, because whenever maintenance goes out to do work, even if the school hasn't submitted a work order, that technician or that supervisor will put a work order in because we need to track those labor hours. So a large part of Broad River was identifying that water leak in the courtyard. And then you can see here reading through, we had a sink drain that was clogged. There were flush valve replacements that we did, as well as toilet seat replacements. So all those work orders were evaluated, and then maintenance goes out, they do the repairs, and then they complete the work order. Does that answer your question?
You did answer my question. Basically, the question was, there was a recurring large amount. There's a large amount of problems occurring at Broad River, and so basically, how did we troubleshoot? And basically, who, where, what, when, why, how, what were those issues? You told me in your answer. You basically told me what those issues were. So basically, you went and seen why was there a large amount of work orders at that school, and what it was, and that was basically my question. And so you did that. You did that, and now I understand what those work orders were. And because I just actually found that is an older building, and so sometimes they may have some different occurring issues. And I just wanted to see what those occurring issues were, or what they're similar. But you said something. So that was my real question. I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. That concludes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Ms. Majors, you asked about, is Mr. Small still on?
Yes, I'm on.
Mr. Small, you were on the board for Beaufort Jasper 8, so Mr. Small and one other board member can probably help, with that one.
Okay.
And of course, any of us, I defer to the chair in terms of the CTE program that the Beaufort County School District School.
Money. But that could be like a program for students. I know it's over 2 years for electricians still, but the amount of money they could tap into for electricity alone.
You have to speak up so the other people can hear you on the.
I tried because I have a big mouth,
Yes.
or I have I don't have an issue projecting, so I try to keep it low so people don't feel like I yell at them.
Go ahead and get.
Okay. All right. So I try to do more like a whisper so nobody takes me as being angry or coming at them.
Yeah.
So I apologize for, I'll do better.
Teaching techniques.
Yes, absolutely. I can reach you down at the end of the hallway and I'm gonna terrify you. I was just saying, if that's an opportunity for a student, the amount of money electricians alone are getting paid today would be amazing.
All the skilled labor is on the
Right.
rise.
But then again, that's gonna be like years in development, somebody putting together a program or.
Well, we don't have to put together programs. They're already out there. I just don't understand why we're not able to tap into them.
Well, one of the problems is liability insurance as far as when you're talking about an apprentice type program with students. We actually had someone the other day talking about how they were wanting to do the same thing in another district, and how they couldn't get it started. I'm not aware of a successful program that's done that. I'd be really interested if there's one out there, but I know the insurance liability is a big roadblock or something like that.
Yeah, we were in a meeting, I guess about a month and a half ago, 2 months. And we had the gentleman who represents the apprenticeship program for the state of South Carolina. And he informed us that there's a $6,000 tax credit for a private enterprise that enrolls in that apprenticeship. So the question I would have is there something similar for public?
Yeah.
And that may be something, because South Carolina, the state of South Carolina has an apprenticeship director. So maybe we can take a look at that.
Today, hopefully tomorrow as well.
I mean, if you give us that contact, we can just reach out and see if he's aware of any public institutions that are, especially school districts, that participate in that, because that's it comes up a lot. I've just not heard of it being successful.
Good delegation.
We can look it up.
Oh, have you caught that?
The instructional side of things, they've tried to make some of those happen. And it's just.
That may be from a
Academic
legislative
committee.
committee point of view, that may be something we can take.
All right, I was telling her we can talk about an academic committee tomorrow as well. It's next week.
Yeah.
So what am I looking at?
Any other questions or comments for custodial maintenance? Mr. Small, Mr. Gordon, anything for custodial maintenance? I'm sorry, Mr. Carr?
No, not at this time.
I'm good.
All right.
No, I'm good. I'm good with everything that's said. I think we need to really look forward into the in-house situation because I looked up because I was in my mind I was talking. I've had my CDL for the last 32 years, and I think it's like one other county in Beaufort in South Carolina that has a program for youth getting attaining their CDL permits, as they're getting out of school. So yeah, even if it takes the next 4 or 5 years, but I think it's something that really needs to get started. I totally agree with that.
All right. Maintenance department improvement discussion.
All right, so this kind of wraps up everything we've been talking about with maintenance and the RFP, because what we talked about last time that about this board is some of the changes we're making to the maintenance department through the RFP process. What are we doing different as this is coming out? So you actually have two of the same presentations, and the reason why is one is an updated version. One is the original version that we presented in November of last year. And especially this was for new board members. This talked about all the challenges we had with HVAC and, some of the struggles we're having and some of the struggles throughout the nation and issues going on. And what I did is took the updated one, has the marked through versions. Has the marked through lines on the agenda. So it just talks about the slides that we're going to address out of that last presentation and kind of update you on what we've done since November that's coming out in this RFP as soon as we can get it on the street. I kind of left the first slide out the key challenges that we talked about, transition from R22 and refrigerants, and new refrigerants came online in January, which everybody's having to retool, readapt, and retrain on how to address any new systems being installed. Talked about how we updated for indoor air quality. Every unit that we're installing now has bipolar ionization systems and how that helps improve indoor air quality. Something we're going to talk about in detail, our maintenance struggles with underperforming PM program and our difficulty in hiring personnel, specifically when we're talking about HVAC systems. Go on to the next slides, future goals. So our whole goal here is what's highlighted in yellow is to improve our workforce quality and training and our maintenance practices. This is something that we're going to address specifically in the RFP process and how this contract is structured. We saw how the contract format really helped our custodial contracts, and we're hoping to do the same thing with the maintenance contract. And again, our main thing that we're going to be focusing on is improving preventive maintenance through the contract structure. That's all we talked about before. Am I flipping the right way? All back.
You got to full turn.
Yeah, I know. So the main thing we've been working on is to develop that contractor scope of work, and we're developing that specifically through the RFP, and then how we're restructuring the maintenance department. We've met already with the HVAC team 2 times, and we have a 3rd time coming we've met with the ABM corporate team. We've met with the local supervisors, and we've kind of put forward our plan for the future of the maintenance department. And what we're wanting to do is we actually started this in February, and between February and June is make this transition. So when the new contract is in place, everything's going full speed, and we've already made these changes. Next slide. I'm really struggling with this. All right. So what we have here is our current maintenance org chart, basically. Just to summarize, we have a maintenance director, an assistant director, and then there are 4 managers. You have a north of Broad manager that handles all the trades north of Broad, a south of Broad manager handles all the trades south of Broad. You have a PM manager that handles the night crews, and then you have an HVAC manager that has 10 technicians under them. Go to the next slide. What we're going to change is basically the HVAC side. We're looking, and you also had a warehouse that managed the warehouse. What we're doing is putting the warehouse clerk under the HVAC manager to focus more on HVAC ordering and having supplies in place for PM. We've restructured both the PM crew and the HVAC crew so that there is an HVAC supervisor north and south. There's one of those already. And then there will be a day lead that will assist them. So basically the staff that you have during the day will be the HVAC manager, your 2 supervisors, and then your 2 leads. So a total of 5. And their main purpose is going to be to put out fires. And if there is a problem that takes longer than a couple hours, they're to triage the problem. And then we recently went out to bid for HVAC contractors that will then fix problems that we have. We'll use outsourced groups. They're going to focus on triaging any problems and seeing what needs to be done and bringing contractors to fix it. What they are focusing on is developing programs for the PM program. The whole focus here is to focus more on PMs. Make sure that all our equipment is in top-notch condition. And then the thought is, and in recognizing problems before they occur, and then the thought is you'll have less problems down the road. So we've become more night focused in that you have a lead night person that is an HVAC tech, north of Broad and south of Broad. You also have a person that goes between night and day so that they're there to make any if a contractor's working during the day, it continues on through the night. They're there to make sure that transition goes smoothly. And then all your PM techs that were previously not under the HVAC manager, which seems, I can't believe we've gone that long. They're under the HVAC manager. And then those day leads are going to be doing QA/QC. So seeing what's done at night, checking it during the day to make sure that all the coils that they said were cleaned are cleaned, belts changed, all that. They're there to train, QA/QC, the work of the night crews. And so we've had this conversation with them, and they're already starting to make this transition to this type of layout. Anything I missed there, Brandy?
No, I think you captured it.
So that's basic, and that is what we're putting as our structure for our upcoming contract. We are asking for suggestions from the proposers, how they would restructure. We're asking them to price it based on this structure, and then if they have an alternative structure and pricing to provide that. And these are some of the things we're adding to these contract penalties, or what we're adding to the contract. We didn't have any penalties before. So just like we have in custodial, if there's insufficient staffing, there's penalties. There's differences between hourly staffing and management staffing. Management, they're basically giving 30 days to replace a management position, and then a penalty goes in place. Hourly staffing, they basically need to maintain the hourly staffing at 100%, or they're charged an hourly wage for not having someone there. You're seeing right now, they're not able to staff, and there's limited things we can do about it. This will put a financial penalty on them if they aren't keeping their staffing numbers up. Just like custodial non-compliance with HVAC systems being down or not working, if a classroom is not able to be occupied due to an HVAC problem, that's a pretty hefty fine. Preventive maintenance, if we're found, if they call out a contractor to a broken system and they look at it and say, well, this doesn't work because the coil's never been cleaned, well, that's a fine. And then there are, if plumbing system's down for a certain amount of time, there are penalties for that. Emergency response, they have to respond within 24 hours. There's different levels, but there's penalties for not responding with those time periods of 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on the certain type. Trying to think what doors and locks, failed systems that aren't repaired during a certain time period, there's penalties for that. Environmental compliance, if we're hit with any kind of penalties, there will be fines for that, or if any of the life safety systems aren't functioning, those. So that's a real quick rundown of how we're changing our contract format for maintenance. With that, I'll take any questions. That's an overview, not getting down into the weeds of it.
Any questions? Anybody online? Mr. Small? Mr. Gordon? Mr. Carr?
This is Pastor Gordon. I'm good.
Thanks, Robert.
I'm good.
Pretty excited to see where this goes. So, I mean, I like your philosophy of checking, you had the whole conversation of, revisiting this, but we also need to give the contract format a little time to take hold and see the impact of these changes on the contract.
All right. Mr. Smith?
No, I was gonna say, I take some time and look at this, but tonight so also, if I do come to the meeting, I may do have questions, but tonight I'm done with it.
Construction update.
Augustine Vargas. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll try to
make this as quick as possible, but if there's questions along the way, feel free to ask.
We'll be the judge of that, but all right.
All right, so for all construction updates through the end of February, on the 2019 bond referendum, we are showing the projects are with green traffic lights on budgeted schedule. For the remaining project closeouts, we are currently sitting at 23 projects. We have a total of 209 financial commitments completed to date. Moving on to the financial update, original budget still hasn't been unchanged of 375.71 million. Paid and committed funds to date are at 373.24 million, or roughly 99.34% of the program. We have a remaining available funds, including contingency of 2.47 million. Now, contingency activity. Was there a question? I'm sorry. All right, I guess it was just. Contingency activity for February included the savings return of $997,000, just a little bit over that. That is from all these projects that are nearing close that we're starting to receive returns of savings. We did have a use of $660,000 for the month. The contingency remaining at the end of February is about $1.27 million. And we do expect that figure is going to continue to increase.
1.27.
1.27, yeah. I'm sorry, my little like place over that number. So with that being said, I do want to segue into the next item, which is slide 15, which is the bond referendum suggested items. And that is a list of the items that the operations department, we've had input as well from IT and other departments as on items that would be similar to 8% capital improvement project, but that are related to the 2019 bond referendum. And we discussed this previously with the clock. So we've compiled that list. And on that list, we have prioritized from high to low to.
Let me just real quick. I don't know if you could. So right now we have $1.27 million in contingency.
That's correct.
So we're seeing the potential of that growing closer to 3 million or higher.
Yes.
So what we've done is put a list of projects together kind of in a priority order from top to bottom on where we suggest that money be spent.
So on some of these top priorities, as you see, we have playgrounds, HVAC, and on the playgrounds, for example, Coos Elementary, the courtyard playground on the pre-K, that item is something that we currently have on the 8% list, but is a need. The facility is currently not in the best of shape and is, I mean, if we can move some of that and spend some of that referendum money, it would be ideal. A lot of the elementary schools that we did, all we did was mostly play fields, so turf. And I think if we can bring some of these schools up to par, it would be a good use of the money. So that's what we're suggesting here.
Yes, Mr.
Are you saying use that money at the school it was initially targeted, but on a different project at that same school? My understanding was we couldn't move the referendum money from one school to another.
No, that's not. So the referendum money was not dedicated to schools. I mean, so you may be thinking more 8%. We try not to do that. But as far as referendum money goes, like safety and security was a large number, and it was for a large number of schools. So yes, we had a budget we're trying to follow, but there wasn't anything that limits where that money goes. And as far as the public's approval of it, they approved the item to be a number to be spent for all these items. So these are items that we feel falls in those categories, that if we want to stay within kind of what the bounds of the referendum are, these items fit that bill. And so we spend the money that's coming back for items that could have been funded by the referendum.
That's
Is
correct.
that, but they
for playgrounds specifically, we said playground, all elementary schools will get their playground equipment.
Okay.
Well,
So that could mean, they
They'll
get
work general.
this or they get,
Okay.
not much. And so
But-
there were still needs. We just didn't.
Okay.
but like the Coosa playground was never intended to be covered, but now that there's funds left, we can spend it on elementary school playgrounds because it was listed as such in the referendum, and it is a need.
You built in your activity. That's fine. They wanted to know.
And right now, we did ask Ms. Crosby if she could just confirm with bond counsel that the spend of this use, so we are waiting for a response on that so that we can then proceed.
And folks have handled it very well.
So, don't know if you want me to go down through the list or? I mean, it was in the pre-read, I went through it, a lot of the stuff, so like, especially like in the district, I said, no, like in the schools have got those little monitors up there that are for the clocks.
Yes.
Are they needed here at the district? I mean.
That's been a topic we've talked about, and we actually had funding for that was not used. And part of that was because
Talk about the renovation of the
the
building.
renovation's been held up. And what needs to happen before we can do any kind of install of that nature is to do all the technology closet upgrades, and that has to occur with the renovation. So if we were gonna do that, we would need to do that in concert with the renovation work.
Right. Okay.
But for those items that you see where it says district wide, that's where we had suggested if technology needs to have a surplus of these items in case they do break down, they can have it right available to just go and swap out these.
Oh, so if kids are throwing balls in the hallway and crack a screen, we can go, okay, I got
This
it.
is what we call attic stock.
Right.
You kind of keep on supply, so when things break, you already have.
Yeah, okay, so not to be installed at the,
No.
okay, all right, thank you for clarifying.
I think, yeah, Mark, something. Come on.
Good evening, Mr. Shohan, how are you?
Hi, I was just going to reiterate what Robert was saying, Mr. Otting was saying. Most of this is spares. So if take for instance, if classroom speakers go out or some of the different amps that are in the classroom, what happens is we have to take that piece of equipment down and then RMA it back to the manufacturer and wait on a replacement. And as you know, in these times, it can take anywhere from 10 days or it could take 4 weeks. So in order to not have lost education time, we go ahead and swap that out with stock at the district office.
Got it. What's an Epic kiosk?
That is the actual PA system, so that's the actual, when you go to the front office of the school and you see that monitor that shows the school's map, that is what communicates with the PA system. So if somebody triggers an alert or somebody does a call from the room, it'll show which room it's coming from.
Gotcha, okay.
Yes. Or they can put the whole building.
I don't mean to be dilatory, I was just asking questions, so please move on.
As you can see from this list as well, obviously we're showing the timeframes for completion because that's one thing that as we're trying to close this program out, this could potentially hold up some of this effort. And that's why we suggested that you guys give us some recommendations if there's any comments. Some of these items, as you're seeing, we're like the playgrounds. Hey, this is a summer project. You can't really go and do this during school session, so it would be completed this summer. But the goal for this list was to find items that we could complete through this summer so that we can close out
Right.
the referendum.
And you're asking us to give you recommendations?
Well, just let us know if you have any comments.
Any comments? I don't have any comments yet, but I mean, that some of this stuff, especially when it comes to the individual schools, I think the board members whose schools they fall in need to have some input. I mean, because maybe their principals, I schedule appointments with my principals. I'm sure they're probably scheduling appointments with their principals. Probably might have some similar comments or maybe something else. But any opinion on that by anybody else?
I think you made a good point about making sure that others who may be affected by it. Take a look.
All right, so I think probably what we can do is maybe email this out to the school board members and see if they have any comments on it. And then do we need motions to spend this money?
Not
No,
necessarily.
then okay, then definitely we need to email this out to all the board members and say, or you can send it to me or I'll email it out or something. And just say, here's what we're looking at, depending on potential funds being available, starting from the top down. Does anybody have any other opinions? Mr. Smith?
Excuse me, this is the 8%, this is the 8%.
This is not 8%.
So where's this money coming from?
This is the overage. As projects close out, they're coming in under budget. So as a project, for example, listed for $1 million, it's only costing $800,000. That $200,000 from all these items that are closing out. We still have 23 items you said to close out. Each of these projects, 23 projects to close out. Each of these projects, as they come in under budget, This is the money that is the overage
2019 referendum.
for the 2019.
So in the end, this is a good thing.
Yes.
It's a problem because, yeah, but it's a good problem. I guess that.
So I could take this page and email it to.
Yes.
And if you want, I can just email you the PDF separately, though. It'd make
That'd
your life
be
easier.
great.
All right. Anything else? Moving
Right
on.
along. Right, so moving on to the 2023 bond referendum project updates. Where River Elementary School is the only project we're showing with the yellow traffic light. Obviously, you guys are aware is the issues with the negotiation of the encroachment with the POA. So once that gets resolved, we'll change the status. Mid River High School, the CTE and JROTC additions, that is progressing on schedule. Right now, the sewer relocations and foundations are complete and the slabs are currently being poured at that facility. The new learning center in Bluffton, that we had the designers provide us some layout options for the facility. I believe now they have a path forward to proceed with the schematic designs. We are waiting for them to give us their design schedule so that we can now get our construction manager under contract as well. So we will proceed with that. Hilton Head On High School, phase 1 construction, progressing on schedule. Right now, we're working on the scheduling of the topping out ceremony for the steel. No, it's the 18th.
Right now, yeah, no, we have, and I was gonna say,
Okay,
the community outreach, I'll give you.
You looked at me like I.
So the last project update of the 2023 referendum was Ladies Island Middle School replacement, and the rezoning applications to the city of Beaufort has been submitted. The SDs, where we gave comments to the design team, they are incorporating that and they are working to resubmit those by the end of the month. So we are moving right along on the 2023 referendum. Moving on to financial updates. The figures as of the end of February, we are still sitting at the current budget of $439 million with paid and committed funds of $182.55 million. That is about almost 42% of the program. So hopefully with the remaining scopes and Hilton Head On coming in this year, we will have a majority of this program encumbered. The remaining available funds include the contingency. We are totaling $256.49 million. And contingency activity in February 2025 included savings returned of $500,000 and the use of $188.5 thousand. The program contingency remaining at the end of the month was $11.72 million. So we're still doing well with our program contingency is actually over what we currently started. We started with 11.5, so that return that we received helped us shore it up. The original project level contingencies, they totaled $17.06 million. Right now, the current contingency sits at 13.8 at the project level. So any questions on financial reports for the 2023 referendum? All right, moving to the other project updates, which right now these are our 8% and our food service projects or special projects. The only project I do want to emphasize is the Mid River's cafeteria expansion, one of the biggest projects we currently have in the 8%. Foundations and slab placements are complete, and the masonry is actually taking place as we speak. So that project's coming up. Moving on to the community outreach, what I'm saying about the Hilton Head On High School topping out ceremony. So here we had a tentatively scheduled to occur March 18th of this year, 1 p.m. Has that been finalized? I did not ask.
Yeah, it's finalized.
All right, so good.
So March 18th is a topping out ceremony. What's the topping out ceremony?
So that's the last piece of steel for the structure gets. So what you do is they'll have it out there and everybody gets to sign it. I hear they're going to paint it gold, which they didn't do. Yeah, Robert Smalls. Yeah, we did. So everybody can sign it and then they'll raise it and place the last piece of steel.
Gotcha. All right.
So it's celebrating the completion of the steel frame.
I won't be able to make that. I have to travel out of town. So otherwise I hate that you'll miss it.
I'll,
Well, the next one will be the ribbon cutting. So,
Yeah, you will not want to miss the ribbon cutting.
yeah.
Yeah, we can't hold up the steel, unfortunately. It's just gotta keep going.
Yeah. Now, the request for proposals and request for qualifications, the RFPs for the construction manager risk for Bluffton High School CTE, as well as the Riverview Charter Gymnasium, those are scheduled to be advertised this month, and if I believe it should almost be finalized.
Yeah, hopefully we can bring them to the April 1st board meeting.
So that is all for my updates. Any questions? Thank you all for bearing.
oh, sorry. If there's no other questions, what's the latest on, May River Elementary? Has there been any other additional steps forward since the last time we spoke?
I have had some positive conversations with, representatives of Palmetto Bluff, and we've provided them some information. So we're waiting on their response. Or we're putting our information together. We haven't given it to them yet. They've requested it and we're waiting on a response after we provide that to them. It did not go out today. Hopefully it can go out tomorrow. Okay. Things are actually looking positive, I'd say. I'm hopeful.
Good. All right. Any other gentlemen, online? Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I'm good.
Thank you.
I'm good, Mr. Chair. I'm good. Just pass the Gordon.
All righty. Future topics. So far we have, possible outsourcings of jobs within the district staff. And then I wrote down contract language for 1-year audit, notice to cure and termination. But we already did.
Well, what
So,
Brandy said, she was gonna provide that
Yeah.
as far as,
yes,
sure.
yes, okay.
Yes, I would include it just as a section in the custodial agent report to speak to what our annual reviews are.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and then of course we brought up the partnerships, when any school board members can make with, our CTs and, Low Country, community or whatever, Low Country Technical College. I mean, that could be a future topic, but, I don't know if that's more of a contact issue for the board members to go out and shake hands, shake babies and stuff like that. I mean, kiss babies.
But sharing it with
Don't shake
Kiss babies.
share it within a meeting, like a future topic for us to discuss at everybody in the board meeting. The partnership with contractor and schools and the possibility of the K programs being developed or added into career and education.
Apprenticeship.
Yeah.
With school, yeah.
If that could be put under the future topics or.
Future topics for operations or future topics for the full board on the full board agenda?
Yeah, I think that might be a full board discussion. Cause I think the superintendent needs to be present for that.
Going back to the cuts that are coming, would it be worthwhile to take a look at projects, referendum or 8%, where we may be adding things that have partially been funded, and I know this applies more to like academics and what have you, but where we may have been building things, including funding for things that potentially are going to be cut. I'll give you an example. So one of the things that's circulating in the community and there's some concern about is some of the artistry that we use in some of our construction projects. Will we be able to find whether or not that would be off limits or what have you? So I'm just raising these things because there's a lot of conversation and a lot of it's going to be pushed out to the state. So we're reaching out to the state partners to try to make sure they understand the sensitivity to it. Not taking a position, just saying, can you help us understand? If that makes sense.
You know, Maya, to your point, we don't know the full details yet. You hate to talk about something you're projecting as a possibility unless we know what those possibilities RFP. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
You kind of need to see how it plays out and then talk about, well, I guess your point is you need to be prepared for how it might play out.
Yeah. Based on current narrative that's in the public domain, and then with people who work there, is there a way for us to identify some things that potentially, we don't have to spread it or anything like that, but just say, wow.
May flesh itself out, sorry, in the 8% discussion when we get to that through this committee. If there are projects that you would say, I'm not sure we need that because, yeah, I think that will flesh itself out there.
Okay.
Now, I'll finish too many of those companies.
Yeah.
But-
Okay.
Because the only other thing would be CTE. If some reason there's a cut of funding for CTE programs, that's in the referendum itself. And those are dedicated funds that have to be used for that purpose. But I don't know if CTEs.
I think we'd be more in the aesthetics of the buildings or the memorials, those kinds of things.
Well, we don't get really
We don't.
any funding outside of what's funded by the referendum for anything like we do like that construction.
Okay.
All right, well, this one was a little bit of a long one. Thanks everybody for their attention and their patience and their comments. And barring any objections, we will adjourn by unanimous consent.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.